there's always pressure when he's your teammate.
A heavyweight and I'm true to size. You need to move out my way and get moved aside. Ain't no choice in this matter. I decide if it's do or die. I'm too strong to take a life. Like a veteran, I've been down the war path. I'll take what's mine. You gotta give me that. No excuses, day in and day out. No fear, I believe and I'll never die.
The next step is beating him. My name is Cam Petersen, racing for the Fresh and Lean Progressive Attack Yamaha team.
Good morning, man. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Happy New Year and all that stuff.
All right.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, good to see you guys. We out here at Buttonwillow Raceway, kind of just our first shakedown test of 2023. Richard's been working on some stuff. We've got some new swing arms and links and everything that we need to try. So yeah, exciting stuff, you know. It's the team's never standing still, so pretty cool that we get to come out here and pretty much a private test day and work on our bikes and see where we're at, get ready for the season. Yeah, growing up in South Africa was great. You know, I loved every second of my childhood. I was born in Spain, and then we moved back to a country called Zimbabwe. We lived there for a few years. So living in a country like that, I got to do a lot of stuff that a lot of kids, you know, maybe in America and first world countries never get to experience. So it was just a family affair every single weekend, you know, being born into a family that my dad raced motorcycles, and he had 3 brothers. They all raced motorcycles. It was a great childhood, just getting to ride bikes every single weekend and be with the family and camping and fishing, all the fun stuff that kids should do. When I was living in Zimbabwe, going to South Africa and racing in South Africa was kind of like coming to America for me. It was the place to be. So South Africa has a really strong motorsports industry, and there's a lot of talented guys that have come out of South Africa. So I grew up racing dirt bikes. That's all I ever wanted to do was race dirt bikes. So did that, and you know, won a few national races, never national championship, but it was kind of one of the top guys. Young kids growing up in dirt bikes, I didn't want to touch street bikes. Yeah, unfortunately I hurt myself way too much on a dirt bike and hit my head a lot and ended up breaking both my legs and was in a wheelchair for a pretty long time. So around about 2008 where I made the transition to road racing, and funny enough, my first ever time on a street bike was Brad Binder's little Derby 50cc, and we went out to the track, and I remember leaving the track on the way home. I told my dad, I was like, I'm never gonna ride one of those things again. Yeah, my dad was pretty persistent with me getting on a street bike, and we did it a few more times, and he just entered me for a race. My first ever race was on a CBR 150 against Brad Binder and his brother Darren Binder and all those guys, and I think I ended up getting a top 5. So you know, that kind of sparked a little bit of interest with me. I was like, well, maybe I can do this. So from then on out, I just started taking the road race side of things a lot more serious, and yeah, just never looked back from then. And you know, just went through the ranks in South Africa. Started racing nationals on a 600 when I was 16, and ended up winning in my rookie year. So that was pretty cool, and ended up winning a championship in 2013. Ended up winning a 600 championship, and ever since then was just looking to come race overseas. Coming to America was a big step for me, massive step for my family. You know, we had been planning on coming overseas for a while, and after I won the 600 championship, you know, we had an option to go to Europe or come to America. And you know, me and my dad, we just sat down and we talked about it, and he had raced in America in the early 90s, so you know, he felt like America was a place to be. I could come make a home here, and everybody speaks the same language. So yeah, we ended up coming to America, and it was a big change. you know, like I said, my family kind of sacrificed everything. So, you know, me and my dad lived in a trailer for the first year and a half, just kind of doing whatever we could to go racing. And I'll never forget, my first ever race was at Coda, and I can't even explain to you, driving into that place, my nerves and the butterflies that were going on I never felt anything like it. And then after the first day, you know, I was 3 seconds off of JD and those guys, and that's kind of when doubt started creeping in a little bit. I was like, man, maybe I'm not good enough to do this, and ended up raining right before our first race. I'd never raced in the rain before, and ended up leading the race for a little bit. I think I ended up crashing out of the lead going to turn 1. But yeah, that whole first year coming to America was a big adjustment period for me, and it was tough. It was tough being away from the rest of my family, just me and my dad living in a trailer. You know, we made the most of it, don't get me wrong. We had fun, and we rode bikes as much as we could, but there was just so much doubt that first year, because for the first half of the season, those guys were just riding away from me. And it wasn't until about 3 or 4 races to go in the season that we found a setup on the bike that really worked on, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah, for the rest of the season, I was able to actually challenge the guys for race wins and podiums, and ended up getting a podium my first year here. So the first half of the season was tough. Yeah, me and my dad were kind of ready to pack it up and go home, you know, especially with our living arrangements and everything. And luckily the second half of the season happened the way it did. It just kind of sparked a little bit more determination to stick around and try and make this thing work, you know.
Well, I think there was a lot of anticipation, and I think that always happens when you have a second-generation racer. And I had a relationship with his dad, Robbie, who I knew from when I was racing. So I think that you're always a little bit of an advantage or a disadvantage when you come into a new series following your father. It was something I had to do too. So the light was on him a little bit in the sense that I was kind of paying attention to who he was. But I remember him just being a really good guy to start with. So if you get around somebody that seems like a good person, and they come from where he came from, you were just kind of keen to see what he was going to do with what he had. And you could see the talent was obviously there right off the bat. You could see the talent was there for Cam, and it was just a matter of making sure that he was going to be on the right bike with the right team.
2016 through 2018 were some interesting years. 2016 was a pretty big opportunity for me. I got a ride with John Ulrich and Chris Ulrich on M4 on a 600, and you know, they were one of the bigger teams in the paddock and had produced a lot of good races. So yeah, I was really excited going into 2016 and ended up having a great season. Actually won my first race ever in America that year, got a bunch of podiums, finished 4th in the championship. The class was stacked back then, so yeah, you know, that was again one of those years where it was a struggle. I'm not going to lie, but I felt like I'd done enough to prove to people that I belong, and if they just gave me the opportunity on something great, I think I could have done great things, you know. So again, at the end of 2016, unfortunately, was just kind of left with nothing, no ride. You know, the paddock, it's a tough paddock to be in and stay in, especially, you know, now in the times with how hard it is to find support. It was a struggle. So again, going into 2017 was left with nothing, and luckily Aussie Dave came along and kind of gave us a great deal that we couldn't say no to. So me and my dad, we took the deal and we went racing stock 1000 with Aussie Dave in 2017. And honestly, you know, got to the first race. I think I qualified 5th overall out of the Superbikes and stocks. And then unfortunately we got to the second race in Atlanta and ended up having a crash on the Friday, and the steering damper put a hole in the frame of the bike. And you know, at that point, my dad, we were kind of just going from couch to couch, living out of our suitcases. And you know, he was struggling, just doing everything he could to make sure I could go racing. And unfortunately after that crash, and it was going to cost a certain amount of money to repair it, and so me and my dad just sat down and we were like, I think we need to stop this whole racing thing and put the family first. So we did that in 2017. I decided to step back and kind of try to put the family first and see if we could find our feet and grow some roots, and then move on from there. So 2017 was tough, you know, it's stepping away from racing, something I've done my whole life and something that I love so deeply. To step away, it was tough, and I was in a very rough place in 2017, mentally, physically, really just in a bad place that I'll never let myself get to again. The one good thing is we had Danny Walker in my corner. I was working American Super Camps non-stop, and he had the Broster Chicken Honda team. And yeah, Danny just believed in me. So 2018, you know, Christmas Day 2017, I opened up a gift, and it was a contract from Broster Honda offering me a ride. And like I said, after being in such a dark place and stepping away from racing, opening that gift, I cried like a little baby. I've never been so emotional, and they just gave me the opportunity to show face around the paddock again and try to prove to people that I can make it. So 2018, we went, raced the Broster Honda, probably one of the toughest years of my life. Nothing seemed to go how we wanted it to, and we struggled a lot with developing a lot of the stuff on the motorcycle. It was just a tough season, but you know, there were certain races in 2018 where I was able to show glimpses of what I was able to do, and finished in the top 5 a few times, and you know, unfortunately crashed out of a podium position at New Jersey. But yeah, that was kind of the end of the whole Honda deal, unfortunately. Unfortunately, I felt like the bad luck followed me from 2018. 2019 was arguably the hardest year of my career. Again, kind of going into 2019, was left with no ride, didn't have any options on table, and again, luckily enough, a guy named Ken Chewy came along and provided me a bike and a team to go race. And you know, it's hard for me to say anything bad about that year because the man was paying out of his own pocket. He was as passionate about racing as I was. And again, he gave me the opportunity to show face and ride in the paddock. Man, it was a tough year. I think I couldn't even tell you how many DNFs we had. Unfortunately, just the whole year was a struggle. Wasn't able to show anything. We just had issue after issue. And again, you know, making money in this sport is not easy. Pretty much nobody makes money unless you're at the top. And so again, just everything away from the racetrack in those situations was super tough. I could barely live, you know. And again, lucky I had Jake Gagne, because he put me up in San Diego without paying a cent of rent for over a year. So, you know, if it wasn't for guys like that, I wouldn't be around. And it was so tough. I mean, even just to get to the races, there was times the week of the race, we didn't know if we were going to show up. And it was always a guessing game. Luckily enough, we made a change on the motorcycle and we ran some stock stuff for the last race of the season at Alabama. And I was able to go run podium, you know, battle for podiums, and I think it was just enough to show some people in the paddock that I'm capable of running up at the front. So that was super cool, you know, just to get that kind of, almost like the universe giving me that one more shot at the end of the season. Like, all right, we're gonna let everything run smoothly, go give it your best. And like I said, luckily was able to produce some good results and show a pace that I hadn't shown probably ever in America, which was super cool, which led to a great opportunity for me. Yeah, so halfway through the day, like I said, testing out some new parts, and everything's so far so good. Weather turned out to be perfect. We all thought it was going to be a little cold, but perfect day. And yeah, we just each session chipping away at certain things, and seems like we're going in the right direction. So looking forward to it. I think things started to turn around for me in 2020.
As we see Cam Petersen come down that front straightaway for the final time, and Cam Petersen, the national champion, is your winner at Laguna Seca.
Whole team's here, running the game. It's a marathon, running a race. Up on the score, got the upper hand. MVP, I'm the man. Check the logo, know the brand. They know my name like Uncle Sam. I put extra tax on the price tag. I won't sell my soul, stop calling it that.
2020 season was kind of the season that I think kick-started my career. Going into 2020, it kind of felt like I was taking a step back, obviously moving out of the Superbike class, going to Super Stock. But again, I didn't have any options, and the story of how I got that ride is kind of crazy. We actually ended up going to San Diego Supercross just to go watch me and my dad. I went and I was doing my thing, and my dad was sitting in the stands, and so happened Chris Ulrich sat down behind him, and I had ridden for Chris in 2016, so we had a bit of a history there. And Chris asked my dad, he's like, "What's Cam doing?" So my dad told him, obviously I got nothing going on. So Chris pretty much just there and there gave my dad a number, and he was like, "Phone this guy, I think he's got something for Cam." So my dad did. He got hold of George Nassani, and honestly, within 15 minutes, they were in contact with me, and we were discussing a contract to go race Stock 1000 in 2020, which is just kind of crazy, We out of the blue just had a Supercross race, and again, I think it's the universe just kind of giving me that extra push. Hey, you can go do this, and that led into probably the best season of my career. Ended up winning a bunch of races. Got to work with some incredible people. Melissa Paris and Josh Hayes were heavily in my corner that year. Melissa was my crew chief, and just to kind of share all that success with people that have been behind me and pushing me to get to that point was pretty damn cool. And yeah, that year we went on, we broke a lot of lap records for the Stock 1000. We won a lot of races, and at the end of the season, we ended up holding up that #1 plate, which was a dream come true.
So, how was 2020 for you?
2020 was the year that everything turned around, actually. It was such an amazing year, especially because 2019 was so difficult. Where do I begin, actually? Thinking about Cam getting that ride and being happy for the first time in a long time, which was just all that we could ask for. And then we ended up getting engaged at Wisconsin, and you filmed that, and it was the best surprise I could ever imagine. I can't believe the way you guys handled that. Was mint. So perfect. But yeah, and then just the way that whole season progressed, and we were having so much fun with the team, and Mel and Josh being in the picture, that made our year, actually. And to end the year the way that it happened, it was just like a complete whirlwind of bad luck changing to good luck, and just good fortune, and almost showcasing what's to come in the future. So it was just the best year that we could have ever asked for.
A 13-lap race for the Stock 1000s. Green means go. Let's do this. Petersen, he's not a 6-time winner in a row. Make it 7.
Winning the championship was everything I've ever dreamed of. From the emotions to everything that went through my head was kind of, I mean, I think every rider does. They think about it and dream about that moment. I couldn't tell you how many times for how many hours. And yeah, a few laps from the end when I kind of knew I had it in the bag. Actually, I think Corey's bike unfortunately blew up. You know, when I saw he was out of the race, it was kind of locked in. So I just went and had fun that race and ended up, you know, winning that race as well, and riding into the pits and going into the winner's circle and just seeing my family and, you know, my mom, my sister, just everybody there. It was the greatest moment of my career, honestly. It's what we worked for. It's what my family sacrificed everything for, was for me to come here and hold up one of those #1 plates. So yeah, just a dream come true, you know. Worked my whole life for something like that, and to get it done was pretty special. So we'll never forget that day. Things weren't always this smooth for me.
Yeah, I think when Cam came in 2020 when he was riding for Altus, I think it was a solid program for him to try to go win a championship, which was what he needed. He'd had a few bad years, and coming into Road Atlanta, everybody knew he was going to be fast. And when he got there, they were having a lot of brake issues over the weekend. I remember seeing him pulling into the pits quite often and just having issues. And Atlanta is a place where you don't want to have brake issues. There's a couple places there that can get a little bit scary if you are having those problems. And
we had a few issues the first few rounds with some heavy brake fade on the bike. I mean, I couldn't, you know, after 3-4 laps, it would get to the point where the front lever would just come to the bar, and we tried absolutely everything we could. I mean, they did everything. We changed rotors, pads, all different brands. We tried absolutely everything, and we couldn't quite figure it out. So fortunately enough, I was still able to get some good results in. And then, yeah, going to Road Atlanta, like I said, we were dealing with the front brake issues, and there was a lot going on. Like I said, it didn't start off very smooth for us. There was a lot going on in the team, and with just everything. And yeah, I hate to throw people on the bus or say anything, but you know, there were just some mistakes made, unfortunately.
So the problems we had in Atlanta actually started all the way at round 1 in Road America. I was really frustrated. Obviously, I wanted to be able to put the best bike under Cam that we could. I noticed we'd had some wheel drag issues that they weren't really straightforward. So the team went back to the shop and tried to do a couple things to make the bike just roll better. Unfortunately, a small mistake got made, and when the bike showed back up to the track, because I'm only working on it at the racetrack, all of a sudden at round 2, we were having like some serious brake drag problems. Like, it was wild, and we were actually like destroying rotors, and it was a disaster, honestly. Like, a lot of people, when they talk about our brake problems, think of Atlanta, but they really did start in Wisconsin. In the course of the weekend in Wisconsin, we ended up destroying pretty much every rotor we had on the truck. By the end of the weekend, Cam was racing on our transport rotors, which were basically slightly bent, you know. So what he was able to do there was even that much more impressive, because we were literally like running ourselves out of parts. So coming into Atlanta, the team bought a whole new set of rotors from a different manufacturer, and we had a new master cylinder, and like we had all these plans. We'd had these brake fade problems already, so we thought we were gonna hit everything we could do to try to fix it. I mean, different master cylinder, built up new brake lines. We actually put new calipers on it, and we had brand new rotors. So it was like a whole new system. And straight out of the gate, we started having some problems from FP1, and honestly, it was the worst weekend of my life. Like, I cried myself to sleep every night, and there was a couple times I cried on pit lane. So it was so stressful. And the thing, like, looking back, is people always want to say, well, what was it? You know, when you finally figured out the problem, what was it? And I can't even give a straightforward answer. I think we'd thrown so many things at that brake system to try to get it to work, and it was like this huge comedy of errors, and there were multiple things working against us. Honestly, I was out of my depth. Like, there's no other way to get around it except to say, like, I was looking at everyone around me and saying, please, like, I need help. Like, this is beyond, like, I've tried all the things I know what to do. And it wasn't until we got to the next round and basically swapped a whole bunch more stuff, and then actually had a technician from M4 come down and show me a couple tricks as well, and tried a bunch of stuff, and lo and behold, the brakes started working again. And the other thing besides that is I can't even take full credit for that. Well, I can't take any credit for that, honestly. It was a team effort. It was, people from M4, it was our suppliers, it was like a lot of people helping us to get it fixed. But also, I know Josh even worked with Cam on how to ride the bike better, like how to put less pressure on the brake system, So I even owe huge thanks to Josh, because Josh and Cam for learning how to ride around a weak point of the bike. The calipers that come on that bike maybe aren't as good as on some of the other bikes. And Cam is gnarly. Like, he really stresses a motorcycle a lot. So I think for him, I don't know if he would say it or not, but I think he still had to ride around probably suboptimal braking capabilities for the rest of the season, and we all saw what he was still able to do with that.
Stock 1000, the rev's going to turn up, the red light's going to turn off, and we're going to take off.
Yeah, we went into the race, and turns out I had an extreme amount of air pressure in my tires.
Cam Petersen trying to get off that start. He's going to try and check out. I'm not sure if they're going to let him do it. Oh,
a little wide.
Dude, he's had brake issues, but it's taken a few laps. It didn't take long. He's not even half the way around this track, and he's already experiencing problems.
I was riding around those first 2 laps at the front of the race trying to push. Going 2 seconds a lap slower than I had, almost killing myself. Every single corner, I tucked front every single corner, high-sided every single corner, feet off the pegs, and luckily something happened to the motorcycle other than the tires that forced me to come into the pits. And
well, unfortunate news unfolding for Cam Petersen, our championship leader on the number 45. He is off of the bike, the gloves still on, still has his helmet on, but of course, you have to pull into pit lane.
So basically, the stock 1000 race 2 at Road Atlanta was, I think, for one of those like worst nightmares for anyone working on a bike. So it was, again, like a comedy of errors. Like, I was so busy chasing brakes that I was really relying on my my helper mechanic to help me with some other things, and a crash repair had not gotten taken care of back at the workshop, and as a result, in the Superbike race, a foot peg fell off, which was super embarrassing. I had wrongly assumed that it had been addressed, but at the end of the day, like, that's on my shoulders, So I was working on the brake system, he was having, like, the brakes only last for like 2 laps at a time, so I said to the guy, I'm like, hey man, I need you to, like, put some Loctite on that foot peg, like, make sure you torque it down. And unbeknownst to me, what I did know is that he's very new to racing. It was only his second time on a racetrack. He had asked another member of the team for help and not gotten the exact advice he needed. So I thought that situation had been totally rectified while I was working on the brakes. And so now it's 5 minutes before it's time to go. We're doing a quick start procedure. I have a little thing I always do where I always keep the tire pressure gauge sitting on the seat. That's my reminder that I need to, like, do the final bleed of the brake, of the air pressure in the tires. So I kneeled down to check the tire pressure in the rear tire, and the wheel didn't spin. It was, like, completely locked down, and that's when I realized that foot peg had been so over tightened it had actually, like, locked the brake pedal down. And now we're, like, on a 3-minute, like, we've got no time. So it's all hands on deck, and we're struggling to, like, fix the situation with the rear set so that the rear wheel will spin. And in the melee, that air pressure gauge got moved off the seat, and I never bled down the tire. And as a result, Cam got sent down on track with 60 pounds of air in the tire. And as soon as he rolled out of pit lane, I realized it, and I was beside myself. Like, it's a nightmare. Like, I was distraught, because in my mind I was like, it's gonna be a miracle if he even makes it around the racetrack, and like, honestly, like, the worst day of my life at the racetrack. It was like something I hope never to revisit. And actually, like, after the race, like, I even told Cam, I'm like, yo man, like, you don't even have to say it, like, I'm done, like, I'm out of here, like, this is gonna work. And Cam said some really nice things to me, and I mean, for someone who had nearly been murdered by his crew, he was really understanding and basically said, like, you know, he wanted me to stick around, and so that was definitely the low point of the season.
Yeah, man, honestly, that was a pretty scary moment, you know, because as riders, we put a lot of faith and trust into people that work on our motorcycles, and I know at the end of the day, our job's probably the easy one, because I couldn't imagine the stress as a mechanic or a crew chief sending a rider on a motorcycle out there that you've worked on, and but that was scary, you know, that could have changed my career, could have ended my career, but luckily something happened on the motorcycle after 2 laps that forced me to come into the pits, and yeah, luckily came in and we were able to check tire pressures and bleed the front brakes, and went back out and was able to break the lap record and you know, do some good lap times, which was pretty cool. But yeah, scary times. And even when you're out there, like, you know how some of the damp is just a little bit darker? It's hard to tell.
You can't tell.
Is it damp enough to where you can't go over there? Like, there's still some of those dark spots everywhere. In 2021, I made it back to the Superbike class.
Welcome to the broadcast booth. I'm Greg White, standing alongside 2-time national champ Jason Pridmore. Now, Jason, the talk of the town is the fact that we had the closest Superbike race finish of the season. So the question becomes, is Jake Gagne vulnerable?
Going into 2021, getting the call to go ride for John and Chris Ulrich again on the M4 team. Again, they had adopted motorcycles from Yoshimura, which was the factory Suzuki team, and they were pretty heavily factory supported. So again, this was a goal of mine, was to always come to America and ride for a factory team. So, you know, when I got the call to ride the bike, it was kind of a sense of relief, to the point of, I'm almost there, I've almost made it. And honestly, the bike lived up to my expectations. The bike was incredible. You know, the stuff that Yoshimura had done with it, and all the parts and everything on the motorcycle were as trick as they come. And I had 2 guys in my corner that were unreal. Rhett and Dave were incredible that whole season, and it was the first season that I had to get used to data that I had never used before, you know, and it took a lot of getting used to, but absolutely it lived up to the hype. I enjoyed every second of riding that motorcycle, and try to make the most of riding a bike like that, because you never know if you're going to get the opportunity again. So had a lot of fun that season, and yeah, actually ended up winning my first ever Superbike race. Was at the end of the season on that Suzuki, which was pretty cool. And yeah, I was just able to have fun that year and show people that I can run at the front. Got a bunch of podiums and raced against a guy named Loris Baz, which, you know, came from MotoGP and is one of the best riders in the world. So had so much fun that season, and yeah, I just had great people in my corner. Honestly, they helped me through a lot of stuff, learning the motorcycle and kind of just with my feedback and the way I gave my feedback to the team. So yeah, we kind of felt like family towards the end of the season, really did. And was tough when At the end of the season, I had the option to go to Yamaha, stay with Suzuki, and honestly, it was one of the toughest decisions in my career because John and Chris Ulrich have done so much for me and provided me that platform to provide that I can, you know, race at the front with the guys. So it was a tough decision to leave Suzuki at the end of the season, it really was. Just shitty out there. It's like still misting a little bit. And
How's the chassis feel?
but I mean, I was doing 46s, you know, so it's hard to tell. When I got the call to go to the Attack Yamaha team in 2022, it was a game changer for me.
When Cam Petersen joined the team in 2022, we expected him basically to learn the motorcycle and see if he can get on the podium on a regular basis, and he accomplished everything we thought he would be at. And he's actually, if you would compare him to other riders in their first year, he's actually far exceeded what we expected.
Being teammates with Jake it's pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie. He, luckily off the track, he's one of my best friends. We get along great, I lived with him, so yeah, being teammates with him, it kind of doesn't seem like anything different away from the track, you know. Our friendship stays the same and we get along great, but I've learned a lot from Jake. His mindset is incredible. I don't think I've ever come across somebody that's mind is as strong as that guy. And just his everyday life, how he goes about everything. He's so cool, calm and collected about everything. I learned a bunch from him. And yeah, I feel like we kind of just feed off of each other, you know. We never get too riled up, and I feel like we can kind of keep each other at a nice, calm state. And I feel like it really helps each other, you know. It's nice having a guy like that that's willing to provide information and help me out on his side of things, because obviously Jake's the champ, you know. He's absolutely crushed us the last few years, so pretty cool to have a guy like that in the same rig, share the data, and just learn every single weekend from the guy. It's pretty cool.
Having Cam as a teammate has been awesome. I mean, me and him have been, since he came to the States, you know, I think 2015, we've been great buddies, done a lot of stuff together, had a lot of fun, we've lived together, so like we're homies, you know, and at the same time, we want to beat each other, we want to push each other to go faster and faster, but yeah, I'm stoked that we got such a good lineup, and I mean, the guy deserves it for sure. He's worked his butt off, and so now that he's here and we're on these Yamaha Superbikes, yeah, it's a dream come true, really, man.
The 2022 season on the Yamaha was incredible. You know, they've won, I think, 11 out of the last 12 championships, so it's a team I think everybody in the paddock wanted to be on. So going into the season, I think I put so much pressure on myself. You know, the feeling that now I finally made it, now I need to prove to people that I'm gonna go win. So I put all this unnecessary pressure on myself and did some stupid stuff, to be honest, in the beginning of the season. Even at testing, crashed some bikes and was just putting all kinds of pressure on myself. And luckily I've got Richard Stamboli as a crew chief, and he's the owner of the team, and he just eventually sat me down. He's like, hey man, there's no pressure on you. You're putting all the pressure on yourself. There's no pressure on you. Just go have fun and do your thing. And you know, luckily enough, I was kind of able to get out the funk of trying to prove myself, and took a step back and just listened to those guys, trusted the process. And by the end of the season, I was having so much fun riding the motorcycle. Feel like I have a better understanding of the bike and what it likes and what works, what doesn't. So my expectations were super high. I wanted to win a lot more than what I actually did. But again, I think most podiums of my career, most podiums in a row. Yeah, I actually ended up getting my first win on the Yamaha, which was something I really wanted to check off the bucket list before going into the second season with them. Getting that first win with Yamaha at MotoAmerica was incredible.
Break it down and build it back up. I'm built for it like a Mack truck. No matter what, live it up, you can feel the rush. fear as I burn it up.
Road America was a crazy weekend. It's probably one of my favorite tracks ever. So, you know, always going to Road America, there's always just this little sense of more confidence or whatever it is. So yeah, going into the weekend, I was ready. I felt like that's one of my best tracks to win at. And going into the second day, weather conditions were kind of iffy. It was raining, wasn't raining. So going into the race, it was mixed conditions. Kind of a wet track, was drying up, no more rain scheduled. So Richard, for an hour before the race, he was like, I promise you want to go on slicks. We're gonna want to ride slicks. And at that point, the track was still so wet, it kind of spooked me. I was like, man, I think we should go on wet. So we ended up going on wet.
When you see these lights go off, we're going for it. And Danilo Petrucci, a little bit of a wheelie on the start. We'll see if that Ducati can make it up. Is that our ball
Gagne going straight backwards. The bike was weaving all over the place. And you can see Gagne is going to be mired back in 8th or 9th place. But I'll tell you, Greg, it's a different feel when you're on rain tires in the dry. So
had a crazy battle with Petrucci and PJ. We were going back and forth the whole race. And honestly, like 3 laps in, I was thinking to myself, I was like, I should have listened to Richard, because the track was drying up and it got scary. We were spinning up. There was no more rubber left on those tires. We were spinning up in 6th gear down the straightaway. And then yeah, going into the last lap, I just wasn't going to let anybody beat me. And
PJ's wide. Oh, he is wide. He's gone in there a little bit too deep.
Put my head down and ended up doing the fastest lap of the race by 1.7 seconds, which I feel like that helped me out massively, just to get that little bit of a gap, because I know the BMW and the Ducati is pretty fast in a straight line. So
onto the front straightaway we go. The checkered flag is flying and awaiting. Cam Petersen, the South African, comes up on top of the straightaway, and he will take the win here in Medallia Superbike.
I was able to open up that little bit of a gap and cross the finish line first to get my first win with Yamaha was incredible. Like I said, you know, once you get to that point, once you make it to where you want to make it, you kind of put all this pressure on yourself. And with not winning a race, I was starting to stress. So, you know, getting that first win with Yamaha felt like so much weight was lifted off my shoulders, and honestly felt like I was able to start enjoying myself and enjoy riding again after that, with all that weight off my shoulders. So that was a massive turning point in this season for me.
Oh my gosh. The fact that he won at Road America, where we got engaged, that place held so much special value to us regardless. But for him to get his first win there, it was like full circle of just manifesting what was to come and knowing that it was going to be so great. And after getting that attack ride, which was the best moment in our lives really, in his career, and just being so grateful for that and showing that once he had the equipment underneath him, he had it. And that's what it really took, was just waiting and knowing that that moment was coming, and just putting in the work and knowing that it's going to pay off one day. And that day was just dreams come true.
Moving into 2023, my goal is purely to win the championship. It's not going to be easy. Obviously, you know, beating my teammate Jake is a very tough thing. And then you got guys like Matty, who's incredibly fast, and on that guy's day is as good as anybody in the world. So I know it's not going to be easy, but I feel like I've got enough time under my belt now, enough experience, and I've got the right people around me that it's time to step up a little bit and maybe take a little bit more risks in certain spots that maybe in the past I haven't been willing to do. So yeah, I'll just, you know, I want to go out there, be consistent, finish every single race is the main thing, but I want to win a lot more and bring home that championship, because I've only got one more year left on the contract. So I think it's going to be hard to deny me if I hold up that #1 plate. So that's the goal, is to bring home another #1 plate and hopefully sign another contract for another 2 years.
Work hard to be the best. I'm up now, I don't care who's next. I'm the greatest alive. You see the look in my eyes, I got the will.
Being the two-time champ, yeah, we're heading into 2023. It's going to be an exciting year. It gets better and better every year. Obviously, having a couple years on this bike, trying to defend this #1 plate, it's going to be exciting. All these boys want to come and get me, especially Cam P. I know that, so it'll be a lot of fun. I hope for some really good battles and a lot of guys. You know, the class is stacked, and obviously, I think Cam P is my #1 competition. I'd say, you know, we're on the same motorcycle. We've been working together. We're helping each other move forward with the motorcycle and our riding, and so. It's going to be fun. I look forward to a good battle.
For 2023, we expect him to win 18 out of 20 versus the 17 out of 20 that Jake won. How's that?
So dark, hitting the bottom. I climbed up to the top. You know there ain't no stopping me. I'm getting faster, I'm going harder now. I've been till I was broken. Got kicked when I was down. I stood tall in the ocean. I'm getting faster, I'm going farther now. Yeah, I'm on a roll, yeah, I'm on a roll. Here we go, here we go. Yeah, I'm on a roll, yeah, I'm on a roll. Here we go. Lights, camera, action. Get ready for the main attraction.
I think the next step for me to start winning races is just to start taking a little bit more of a risk. With my past and in some of my past rides and everything, I've kind of been brainwashed a certain way. So, you know, there's been certain situations where in the past I could make a move, I could make a pass and kind of go with the front guys. I've just been a little scared to take that risk, and honestly, I feel like I'm in the right place physically, mentally to go win races. So I think the next step is honestly for me to just start taking that little bit of a risk and trusting in my ability to go win races. So looking forward to it, and let's go win some more races.
You can't see me, open your eyes up until I get what's mine, middle fingers up. I'ma show you right now. Looking at us all right now. Looking at us all. Put my picture on the wall right now. You looking at us all right now. Looking at us all. It's gonna be something. Nobody ever gave me nothing. I'ma show you all right now. Looking at us all right now. I'ma show you all right now. You looking at us all right now. Looking at us all. Put my picture on the wall right now. You looking at us all right now. Looking at us all. I told you I was gonna be something. Nobody ever gave me nothing. I'ma show you all right now. You looking at us all right now.
I think it's time to start winning races.